The ranch gate slammed shut with a metallic clang, and my hand stayed firm on the chain. Dust swirled in the air as her SUV skidded to a stop on the gravel road. Just inches from the fence, the engine revved, loud, impatient, and then I saw her face, Karen, windows down. Sunglasses perched on her nose, mouth twisted into that familiar smirk. "Move the damn gate," she barked, leaning half her body out of the car. "I told you before, this shortcut stays open. You don't get to block the road." I stepped forward, boots crunching in the gravel, my eyes locked on hers. My heart pounded, but not with fear, with fury. "This is my land," I said, voice steady. "This gate is my boundary, and you don't tell me what I do with it?" Her laugh was sharp, cruel. The kind of laugh designed to make you feel small. "You think you can keep me out? I'm on the HOA board. This road has always been here, and I'll use it whenever I please." That's when I leaned in. It's close enough for her to feel the weight of my words. "You're trespassing, Karen, and today, you picked the wrong fight." Her smirk faltered for half a second, then twisted back, sharper, meaner. She flung her door open and slammed it shut, the thud echoing across the empty fields. Gravel crunched under her heels as she stalked toward me, one hand waving in the air like she was swatting flies. "You think because you've got a few acres of dirt, you're untouchable?" She snapped. "This road has been used by this community for years. We have rights. You don't get to just slam a gate and shut people out." Her finger jabbed against the lock hard enough to rattle it. Then she leaned forward, close, her perfume cutting through the dust and gasoline. "You don't want to make an enemy of me." I stood still, chain tight in my grip. Every nerve in me screamed to shove her back, to end this right there, but I didn't move. Instead, I stared, unblinking, until her hand dropped from the lock. "You're already my enemy," I said quietly. Her lips curled back, baring teeth. For a moment, I thought she might actually strike me. But instead, she spun on her heel and stomped back to her SUV, muttering under her breath. She yanked the door open, threw herself inside, and gunned the engine. The SUV roared forward, bumper pressing against the gate. The steel groaned, chain strained, dust kicked up around us. She was testing me, seeing if she could push me back with 2 tons of metal in her sheer. Arrogance, but I didn't move. The gate shuddered but held. And I stayed locked on her, my hands gripping the chain so hard my knuckles turned white. She screamed from inside the car, words lost under the roar of the engine, and then finally slammed it into reverse. Tires screeched, gravel spit in every direction, and the SUV shot backward before jerking around in a wide arc. She tore down the road, throwing a long, angry plume of dust in her wake. And just like that, she was gone. Silence fell over the ranch again, broken only by the rasp of the chain in my hands and the faint creak of the gate as it settled. I let out a long breath, muscles tight, blood thrumming hot under my skin. I'd won the first standoff, but Karen wasn't finished. No, this was just her opening move. I stayed at the gate longer than I needed to, staring down the road where her taillights had disappeared. The land stretched wide and empty in every direction, the kind of silence that usually brought me peace. But tonight, it felt heavy. This wasn't about convenience for her. It wasn't about a shortcut. It was about power. Karen wanted to prove that even here, outside her precious subdivision, she could bend people to her will, not me. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in blood-red streaks, I finally turned back toward the house. The gravel crunched under my boots and every step felt heavier than the last. She'd be back. I knew it. People like her don't stop after one failure, they escalate by the time I reached the porch. The first stars were winking into the night. I poured myself a bourbon, the glass cool against my palm, and sank into the old rocking chair. The wood creaked under my weight as I stared out across the fields. Her voice echoed in my head. "You don't want to make an enemy of me. Too late." I sipped the bourbon, let the burn settle in my chest, and thought of every time she'd rolled through that gate before SUV, cutting across the dirt, her smug face behind the wheel, daring me to stop her. I'd ignored it at first, let it slide. But tonight proved one thing: she wasn't going to stop until I stopped her. The coyotes started up, their cries carrying across the land, sharp and wild. I set the glass down, grabbed a lantern, and headed back out toward the gate. The night was cool, the wind sharp, and the moonlight silvered the grass. I walked the fence line, running my hands over the posts, checking the hinges, the chain, the lock. Her bumper had left a dent in the steel, nothing serious, but enough to remind me how far she was willing to go. She thought force could break me. I tightened the bolts, secured the hinges, then leaned back against the fence post, lantern flickering at my side. My reflection stared back at me in the SUV's dent, warped and shadowed. No, brute force wasn't the answer here. Not hers, not mine. If I wanted to end this, I had to be smarter. I thought back to the look in her eyes when I refused to move, that flash of uncertainty buried under her rage. That was where her weakness lived. She was used to people folding when she raised her voice, 2 neighbors backing down, 2 board meetings ending in her favor because no one dared to fight her. But I wasn't her neighbor. I wasn't part of her HOA. I was something she couldn't control. And that scared her, whether she admitted it or not. I smiled for the first time that night, small and grim. If Karen wanted a war, she was going to get one. But it would be on my terms. I'd set the trap, and she'd walk straight into it. The lantern flame danced in the wind as I turned back toward the house, boots crunching in steady rhythm. The field stretched endless under the stars, my land, my rules. And soon enough, she'd learned the cost of crossing it. The fight had just begun. The next morning came quiet, but it was the kind of quiet that never lasted long. The sun crept over the horizon, burning the fog off the fields, and by the time I finished coffee on the porch, I knew she'd be back. I could feel it in my bones. Karen wasn't the type to lick her wounds and retreat. She'd spent years bending people to her will, and me standing at that gate had humiliated her. No, today she'd return. She'd return louder, harder, angrier. I spent the morning walking the property, running my hands along the fence posts, checking the hinges again, and then moved toward the real work. The trap, it wasn't a pit, it wasn't spikes, it wasn't anything you'd see in a cartoon. This was quieter, smarter, something designed not to kill, but to strip her pride bare, to make her understand she couldn't bully me the way she bullied everyone else. I rigged the gate carefully, my tools steady in my hands, despite the heat rising fast. The ranch dog patted at my side, tail wagging, curious but loyal. I worked in silence, sweat dripping, heart steady. When I was finished, the gate looked no different to anyone passing by. But I knew. The trap was there, waiting, patient. By noon I was ready. I didn't have to wait long. The sound carried across the fields before I even saw Hertha low. Aggressive growl of her SUV's engine, louder than it had any right to be. She came barreling down the dirt road, dust cloud trailing high in the air like smoke from a fire. My pulse picked up, but I didn't move. I leaned against the fence post, arms crossed, like I'd been expecting her all along. And I had. She roared. To a stop, just before the gate, dust curling around her tires. The driver's door flew open, and there she was. Karen, sunglasses gone this time, hair pulled back tight, fury etched into every line of her face. "You think you're clever?" she shouted, marching toward me. "You think you get to shut me out? This road is community property. Can't lock it. I'll have you sued. I'll have the sheriff down here so fast, you won't know what hit you." I didn't move, didn't flinch. "This isn't your road. It never was." Her face flushed red. She jabbed a finger at me like a weapon. "I don't get it. People like you never do. I make the rules around here. I've been running this community since before you showed up with your cheap boots and your rusted fences." I let her words hang in the air, her arrogance boiling over. And then I said softly, "Drive through it. If you think you're entitled, prove it. Go ahead, Karen. Push the gate." Her eyes narrowed. "Shh. Don't test me then. Stop threatening," I shot back. "Either respect the boundary, or try me." That was all it took. She spun on her heel, stomped back to her SUV, and yanked the door open. Gravel spat as she gunned the engine again. Bumper aimed at the gate like a battering ram. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. The tires squealed. The SUV lurched forward, slamming into the gate. The steel groaned, the hinges strained, and for a second, I thought she'd power through. But then it triggered. With a sharp crack, the rigging snapped free. The gate swung outward in a sudden, violent arc, yanking free of her push, a cloud of fine powder. I'd packed into the rig lime dust mixed with powdered choke exploded upward as the SUV struck the second latch I'd set. The world went white around her vehicle. The chalk coated everything, the windshield, the paint, the grille, the wheels. It poured through the open driver's window and wrapped around her face, clinging to her hair, her clothes, her skin. The SUV screeched to a halt, brakes locking, and I heard her coughing, choking, flailing inside the cloud. The trap had sprung perfectly. I stepped forward slowly, boots crunching, the dog pacing at my side. Through the haze I could see her outline, frantic movements behind the glass. She shoved the door open, stumbling out into the sunlight, covered head to toe in pale gray dust. She looked less like the queen of an HOA, and more like some ghost dragged up from the dirt itself. Her expensive clothes were ruined, her perfect hair wild and matted, her face streaked and furious. "You," she screamed, voice hoarse, eyes burning. "You think this is funny? You think you can humiliate me?" I didn't smile, didn't laugh. I just stood there, calm, steady. "You wanted to drive through my gate? You did. That's what happens when you don't respect boundaries." She staggered toward me, hand raised like she might strike, but I took one sharp step forward. She froze. Her eyes locked on mine, and for the first time since I'd known her, I saw something beneath the rage. Fear. "This is the last time," I said quietly. "The very last time you roll across my land, you come back, and it won't just be chalk dust you're covered in." Her mouth opened, then closed. The fire in her eyes flickered, dimmed, but her pride wouldn't let her admit defeat. Instead, she spat in the dirt at my boots and staggered back to her SUV. I watched as she climbed inside, coughing, her once pristine vehicle coated in a dull gray shroud. She slammed the door, jerked the wheel, and tore away, leaving another plume of dust in her wake. But this time, it wasn't the dust of triumph. It was the dust of defeat. I stood at the gate long after she was gone, the powder still hanging faint in the air, glowing silver in the late sun. My chest rose and fell steady, and for the first time in days, I felt it, the weight lifting. She'd felt the trap. She'd felt the humiliation. And now, deep down, she knew. My land was not hers to claim. I turned back, toward the house, the dog trotting at my heels, and for the first time, I allowed myself a small smile. She wouldn't forget this. She'd remember the taste of dust, the sting of failure, and if she was foolish enough to come back, well, I had plenty more traps waiting. The war wasn't over, but round two was mine. The dust hadn't even settled before I knew she wouldn't take it lying down. Karen wasn't the type to swallow her pride and vanish. Humiliation only made her meaner. I just served her the biggest helping she'd ever tasted. By evening, word had spread. Out here, news travels faster than wildfire. A few neighbors slowed their trucks as they passed my land, leaning out windows, curious eyes catching the gray powder still smeared across the gravel. Some waved, some gave me the kind of look that said they'd heard, but they weren't about to get in the middle. But Karen would. I sat on the porch that night, the dog curled at my feet, the cicadas buzzing loud in the brush. I watched the horizon like a soldier waiting for the next attack. And when the headlights finally appeared, crawling slow across the dirt road, I wasn't surprised. This time, she didn't come alone. The SUV rolled up first. Cleaner now, but still faintly streaked with chalk dust she couldn't scrub out. Behind it, two more vehicles followed, one black sedan. They stopped just short of the gate, and the doors opened in unison. Karen stepped out first, dressed sharp again, as if a new outfit could erase the memory of yesterday's disaster. Her smirk was back, wider than ever. But she wasn't alone. Two men climbed out of the pickup, broad-shouldered, arms crossed. The kind of muscle you only brought when you wanted to intimidate. And from the black sedan came a man in uniform, the county sheriff himself. My jaw tightened. So this was her next move. "Evenin'," the sheriff called, voice steady, professional, but his eyes flicked to Karen, then back to me. Got a complaint here. Says you assaulted a resident, damaged her vehicle, blocked a community road. I stood, slowly, every movement deliberate. The dog rose too, ears perked, a low growl vibrating in his chest. No assault, I said firmly. No community road. This is my land. That gate's mine. Drove through it without permission. Karen cut in, her voice shrill. He set a trap. He attacked me on my own property. This road belongs to all of us. He can't keep it locked. He's a danger too. This community sheriff, you have to arrest him. The sheriff held up a hand, weary. He'd dealt with her before, that much was clear. His eyes shifted back to me, mind explaining what happened. I locked eyes with him. She forced my gate. I protected it. That's all. Karen stomped her heel in the dirt. Protected. He humiliated me, Sheriff. Tried to poison me with some chemical crap. Look at my car. The sheriff glanced at her SUV, faint streaks of chalk dust still clinging to the rims. And I saw his lips twitch just barely. He wasn't buying her whole story, not yet. But then one of her muscle-bound friends stepped forward, cracking his knuckles. This ain't just about a gate, Sheriff. This guy thinks he's above the rules. The HOA says that road stays open. He don't get to say otherwise. The sheriff exhaled through his nose, heavy, tired. HOA rules ain't the law, he muttered, almost too low to hear. Karen's eyes snapped wide. Excuse me? Stepped closer to the fence line, voice carrying steady in the night air. You can play your board games and pass your little rules, but they stop at this gate. You don't own my land. You don't own me. The silence stretched thick as tar. The two hired men shifted on their feet, waiting for a cue. Karen's face twisted with rage, her lips trembling like she was about to scream the sky down. And then she did. You'll regret this, she shrieked, pointing at me with a shaking hand. You don't know who you're messing with? I'll bury you in lawsuits. I'll have every neighbor against you. I'll make sure you can't walk into town without people spitting at your boots. You'll wish you never bought this ranch. The sheriff rubbed his temple, muttering something under his breath before speaking louder. All right, enough yelling. I ain't macking an arrest tonight, but I'll say this, keep this up and somebody's gonna get hurt. Don't want that on my watch. He turned his gaze on me. Keep your traps to yourself, then to her, and stay off land that don't belong to you. Neither of us moved. Neither of us backed down. Finally, with a huff, Karen spun on her heel, storming back to her SUV. Her goons followed, shooting me glares sharp as knives. The sheriff lingered a moment longer, his eyes heavy on mine, as if trying to decide whether I was stubborn or dangerous. Then he left too, taillights fading into the dark. But I knew it wasn't over. Karen wouldn't stop. Not until she won, nor until she was broken. The days that followed proved me right. She plastered the neighborhood with flyers calling me a violent trespasser. She sent letters demanding I pay for her damaged property. She dragged other board members out to the gate, pointing, screaming, threatening. Some shook their heads, some nodded along, and then came the final straw. It was just after dusk when I heard the sound, engines, more than one, rolling down the road. I stepped out onto the porch, heart steady, and there they were. Not one, not two, but half a dozen vehicles lining up along the fence. Headlights glaring through the dust, Karen stood at the front, arms folded, chin high, a queen ready for war. Behind her, the board members, neighbors, strangers, even kids, peering from truck beds, wide dash-eyed. She wanted an audience. She wanted my humiliation public this time. Open it, she shouted, her voice echoing across the fields. Open it now, or we'll open it for you, the crowd murmured, emboldened by her fury. Engines revved. Someone threw a beer can into the dirt near my boots. I stood at the gate, silent, the ranch dog pacing at my side, hackles up. My hand rested on the steel latch, steady, deliberate. I could feel every eye on me, waiting, watching. And deep inside, I knew this wasn't about land anymore. This was war. Engines rumbled like thunder, headlights cutting through the night, a half circle of steel and noise pressing against my land. Karen stood tall at the front, arms crossed, her voice already sharp with triumph. "This ends tonight," she yelled, turning so the gathered crowd could hear. "This man thinks he's above all of us. He thinks he can lock us out of what belongs to the community. Well, we're taking it back." A few cheers rang out. Someone revved their engine, tires spitting dirt. A couple of kids in the back of a pickup whooped, excited by the chaos. But not everyone cheered. Some shifted uneasily, their eyes flicking from Karen to me, to the gate that had stood strong through every storm and every test. Not everyone was sure. I took a step forward, my boots loud against the gravel. The dog paced at my side, teeth bared, a growl rolling low and steady. My shadow stretched long in the headlights, my hand resting on the steel latch of the gate. "You want this road?" I said, voice carrying across the field. "You'll have to take it. But know this: you step 1 foot past this line, and it won't be just me you answer to." Karen smirked, tilting her head like I was a fool. "Threats again? That's all you've got? Pathetic." She raised her arms, grand, like a queen addressing her court. Everyone, on my word, pushed the gate. The engines roared louder, people edging forward, anticipation buzzing in the air like static before lightning. My heart pounded, but my hands were steady. I wasn't bluffing. Not tonight, because the trap was already set. I let the silence hang a beat longer, then flicked my wrist. A small remote clicked in my hand, and with a mechanical whir, floodlights snapped to life along the fence line. Blinding bright gasps rang out. Every inch of the crowd was suddenly lit up like a stage, their shadows sharp against the dirt, their faces exposed, and along the fence, high on posts, the cameras I'd mounted glowed red as they recorded. "Smile," I said coldly. "Every second of this is being streamed." Confusion rippled through them. Some lowered their heads, some raised hands to shield their eyes. The bravado of the engines quieted, replaced by murmurs, uncertainty. Karen's face froze. "You," she started, but her voice cracked. She hadn't expected this. She'd thought it would be another shouting match, another show of muscle. But I hadn't brought fists. I'd brought light. I stepped closer, my voice cutting through the noise. Every threat, every trespass, every illegal stunt, it's all on record now. You want to ram this gate? Go ahead. Break the law in front of the whole county. Let them all see who you really are." The crowd shifted, uneasy. Some engines cut off. One neighbor muttered, "Damn, he's got us on tape." Another whispered, "Karen, maybe we should quiet." She shrieked, spinning on them. "Don't you see? He's bluffing. He can't." But her words were drowned out by the sound of sirens. The blue and red glow painted the dust clouds on the horizon. Sheriff's cruisers, more than one, rolling fast to ward the commotion. Karen's face drained of color. "You called them?" She spat. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The cruisers pulled up, lights flashing, doors slamming open. Deputies stepped out, hands on belts, scanning the scene, the crowd, the cars, the floodlights, the cameras still recording everything. The sheriff himself walked forward, slow, deliberate, his jaw tight. "I warned you," he said, voice hard as stone. He looked from Karen to me, then back again. And here we are. Half the damn county at this man's gate. Karen started in her words, frantic, shrill. "He set us up. He's blocking the road. He's enough." The sheriff's tone cut like a blade. His eyes narrowed, heavy with disgust. "This ain't a community road. It's his. Always has been. And what I see right now," he swept his arm toward the mob, "looks a hell of a lot like trespass. Maybe even incitement." A murmur ran through the crowd. Some people stepped back, suddenly eager to distance themselves from her. Engines fired up again, what with menace this time, but with retreat. One by one, cars peeled away, their drivers shaking heads, muttering apologies. Disappearing into the dark, Karen stood frozen, her world unraveling. "No," she whispered. No, you can't. The sheriff took a step closer, his shadow falling over her. You pushed it too far, Karen. I should haul you in right now. Her eyes darted to me. Venom and desperation mixed in one glare. This isn't over, she hissed. You'll regret, but her words caught in her throat. Because she saw it, the camera's still watching, the lights still blazing. The truth laid bare for everyone, and in that silence her power crumbled. The sheriff finally turned to me. Keep those lights on if you want, but maybe shut the gate for the night. This circus is over. I gave him a single nod. He herded Karen back toward her SUV. She resisted at first, sputtering, cursing, but the weight of her failure dragged her shoulders low. She climbed in finally, slamming the door. Her once pristine voice now a hollow echo. The convoy that had come for war left broken, headlights shrinking into the horizon until the fields were quiet again. I stood there a long while, the floodlights humming, the dust settling soft. The dog leaned against my leg, steady, loyal. My land stretched wide and silent before me, the gate strong, unbroken, and I knew it this time. It was done. Karen had thrown everything she had, and still she'd lost. The ranch was mine. The gate was mine. And no HOA, no mob, no self-appointed queen would ever take it from me again. I unlatched the chain, shut the gate tight, and whispered into the night. War's over. The silence that answered was the sweetest sound I'd ever heard.